Back to another episode, Disturbing Reasons to Be Afraid of the Dark. Yes, we are gonna do part 2 of Abandoned Catacombs in a Nearby Town. If you haven't watched part 1, I would recommend you go watch it because you will be lost, but I will give a short little summary about what happened and what they're doing now before I start, so you'll kind of be safe on that. Impressed to not too much went on, but it'll be a good idea just to get a feel of the story to go ahead and go watch that one. And if you're watching this and you're not a member of Nikki Lou Paranormal VP, go ahead and go join that group. We have so much fun. It's some great people. So go ahead and go join so you don't miss out on anything I post, any little sneak peeks I post, or anything like that. And I do take requests on that page. Okay, there we go. Alright. Now, on the last part, they are planning to go to the catacombs. They're on their way and they just pulled up. That's where I left off on the other one. They just pulled up to the abandoned factory. Okay, so let's get started. Stop it, Jen. It should be this way. Graham kept looking at his phone and then back at the road, occasionally glancing at the street sign. After about 5 minutes of walking through the neighborhood, we turned into an alley. Hold up! Graham went inside and started inspecting the wall on his right side. Yeah, this is definitely it, he said after a moment. As James and I were passing by, I looked to the right and saw a peculiar red mark on the wall. It looked like a symbol similar to the Templar cross, but I couldn't decipher it. It was safe to say my fear was on a pretty high level by then. But when I looked back at Graham and saw him standing in front of the descending stairs leading down into the darkness, my stomach dropped. I suddenly got the feeling that I should just run out of the place and never come back to this town. Dismissing it as my own irrational fear, I decided to ignore it. Another big mistake. Let's go. James handed me a flashlight, spanked me on the thigh in a not subtle way at the same time. Hey babe, you okay? He turned back towards me again, seeing the fear that was almost palpable on my face. Most likely. You know we can always skip this and grab some coffee, right? I wanted to see if there are any historical traces down there. Turning on my flashlight right there, which slightly withdrew my fear, I decided I had to hide being afraid. Otherwise, James would get us out of here and the fun would be ruined for him. Besides, what could possibly happen down there? I don't even believe in the paranormal. So then why was I having this feeling of dread? Deciding to just get this over with and maybe think of an excuse of feeling sick when I start feeling too uneasy. I pointed the flashlight at Graham's back and followed him down the stairs. The air was much different down here, colder and damper. Although all three of us had sources of light, the tunnel was really dark. The flashlights only seemed to illuminate a couple meters ahead of us, forcing me to move very slowly. Are we already inside? James brushed his way past me, swaying his flashlight left and right, only illuminating the worn-out walls. Almost. Graham never stopped moving. According to my intel, it should be just ahead. There it is. He strode forward and pointed his flashlight towards a very old, very rusted gate. On the right side of the gate was an old warning sign with half worn out letters. It simply said, "Do not enter beyond this point." This is it. He looked back at us, trying to shine his light beyond the gate, only revealing further daunting darkness. With every step I took forward, I felt something rise in my chest. We were not supposed to be there, and I knew it. Well, let's go, dang it! James' voice echoed throughout the tunnel. Without further hesitation, he pushed open the decayed old gate with a ridiculously loud creaking sound. So now we are officially in the catacombs, he asked. Yep, Graham replied. Pretty desolate, huh? We walked through the gate and started descending down some more, this time crooked stairs. James and I were in front, carefully going down until we reached the final step. I shone my light around and saw that the tunnel forked to a few architectural uneven corridors. There was something I caught with my peripheral vision on the right side of the corner. So I reluctantly shone my light down, and immediately my heart jumped to my throat. Sitting on the floor with his back against the wall seemed to be a hooded man, all huddled up in the corner, with tattered clothes and a hood over his head. It took my brain a second to process that it was just a junkie squatting here, but the speed at which my heart was beating made me think it would burst in my chest. James, I groped behind to try to find him, feeling his body with my hand. Oh, don't worry, James pulled me away from there. He's just, relaxing. Let's go down one of these hallways. But we could get lost. I forced myself to pull my gaze away from the stranger, looking at James' illuminating face in the darkness. Don't worry, Graham, who was already in front of the left corridor, replied. This place is not big. Let's go this way. We followed him, James in the rear. The walls and the ceiling of the corridors had uneven surfaces, as if they were dug crudely by some handmade tools, like in a mine. But it seemed safe enough not to cave in on us. What worried me more was the fact that with each step, it kept getting colder and colder, and it was now becoming harder to breathe. After walking for what seemed like an eternity to me, we came to another junction, this time leading in all four directions. We decided to just move forward in order to avoid going in circles too much. There seemed to be more and more of these junctions as we continued moving, sometimes the tunnels moving in perfect opposing directions, and other times swerving or not even having a passage. Finally, we left the hall and came to a somewhat bigger room. At least it was from what I could tell in the darkness. There seemed to be nothing in it except some kind of inscription on the wall on the other side. My fear elated, and I rushed forward with Graham, inspecting the inscription in the rocky wall. To my disappointment, it was written in a foreign language, none that I could understand even a bit. I glanced back and saw that James was still there, shining his light around the room curiously. I took out my phone and took a picture of the engraving. What is this? Why is it here? Graham slid his fingers across the rugged surface. I'm just wondering why it's in a different language. It looks Arabic or something, but I don't remember learning anything in history about foreigners leaving any marks in the city. But then again, maybe it was concealed. Why would they not mention this to the public? And they just probably wanted to stop terrorists from coming here. Graham shrugged his shoulders. All right, let's look around some more. Yeah, James, let's take the other route. When I turned around, I froze in my steps. James' flashlight was on the ground, shooting a ray of light towards the left side of the room. James? I panicked immediately. James, where are you? Come on, James, this isn't funny. Graham tried shooting his light around to find him, but saw nothing. James? I yelled, my own desperation echoing throughout the empty room. I frantically started walking around, shining my light, looking for any traces of where he could have been. Tears started stinging my eyes as I swayed my flashlight all around the room, trying to relocate him. We have to find him. I could hear my voice shaking. He's probably just playing a prank on us, Graham responded. James, please. My pleas were no longer loud, so panic completely overtook me. I took out my phone and tried to call him, but the signal was too weak. How did this happen? We got separated in a complete dark maze, and I had no idea where my boyfriend was. Without wasting any more time, Graham and I decided to check out the nearby corridors. Maybe he saw something interesting and started filming with his phone. But why would he do that? Did someone attack him? At this thought, I felt like puking, but I decided to try to maintain my cool as much as possible and look for him. I raced through the corridors, only faintly hearing Graham's footsteps behind me. My flashlight was jumping up and down as I tried to maintain a trot through the cursed place. Not even thinking, I kept going through the maze, left, right, left, straight. I don't even know anymore. All I know is that by the time I stopped to catch a breather, Graham was no longer behind me. Did he tell me to stop? But I didn't hear him. I stopped shining the light in every corridor direction in the middle of the junctions. Graham! My voice echoed. James? In vain I kept spinning in circles, calling out to both of them, only hearing my own echo as a response. Baby, where are you? My screams turned to sobs as desperation completely overtook me. But just then, as I turned my light towards the corridor again, I thought I saw a glimpse of someone running around the corner and I froze. Maybe it's James or Graham, I thought, and without a hesitation, raced to follow that person. Turning around the corner, I was faced with one simple long hallway, the same as all the other ones in these catacombs. Moving slowly forward, squinting to see beyond what my frail flashlight illuminated, I finally saw something. But as my hopes got raised, they plundered with the same speed. I was looking at another junkie, with his back towards the wall, huddled, looking at the ground. He didn't respond to my flashlight. I tried to get closer, illuminating his face, the beam of the flashlight furiously shaking from fear. He seemed to be a young man, in his early 20s maybe, but it was hard to tell since his face was covered by his arms and shoulders. "Excuse me, did you see anyone else here?" I asked him with a very audible shaking in my voice. There was no response from him, so I decided it was best to just leave him in his trance and continue looking for Graham and James. Carefully making my way past him, I turned left, which was the only way where the corridor led. It kept leading in a very gradual swerve to the left, but it was so gradual that I had begun losing my sense of direction, not knowing where I was going to go. Eventually, the corridor led to another big room, but this one had nothing else in it, just more passages on the right side. I stopped for a moment, taking a deep breath and closing my eyes, trying to calm myself down as much as possible. Slowly, I started exhaling and then stopped midway. I thought I heard something that sounded like thumping close by me. It sounded like someone rhythmically kept hitting a wall nearby, but it was hard to tell. Stilling myself completely and holding my breath, I tried to figure out where it was coming from. Thump, thump, thump. It was on the right side, I think, but I needed to make sure, so I waited a little more. Thump, thump. "You'll wake him up." The voice behind me startled me so much that I screamed and turned around and I fell on my back. Scrambled backwards on all fours, only realizing that it was the young man from just before when my back hit the wall. He was just standing there staring at me, hands next to his body in a relaxed posture. The blinding light from the flashlight didn't seem to affect him at all, as he didn't even blink. I'm sorry. I quickly got up, not breaking gaze for a moment. "I'm just lost, and my friends are lost. Do you know the quickest way out of here? You shouldn't be here alone," he responded sleepily, turning around very slowly and making his way towards the corridor I came from just now. I heard his mumble something on his way out, but it was too incoherent to understand. I was just glad he left. Thump, thump. And that's all the time we have for today. That's all we have time for. I'm so sorry, guys. But this is so interesting. I'm sorry. Jenny moved the camera, didn't she? I'm about to whip that butt. She's looking at me like, no, you're not. She's so silly. But anyway, thank you for joining me for Disturbing Reasons to Be Afraid of the Dark. Make sure you stay tuned for part 2. And she's back again and she's going to break everything. But yeah, make sure you stay tuned for part 3, Don't forget to go check out part 1. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I hope you all have a good evening. Remember, stay scared, my Nikki Loos.